Hi, my name is Michael Cullen for Film Sound Tutorials, and today I'm going to talk about the new updates in Izotope RX 10. So as you probably know, RX is an audio program that has a bunch of different audio modules that you can use to clean up and modify audio, and you can access the modules as plugins within your DAW, and they also have a standalone program that you can import audio and then use the modules within there. Also, as you probably know, RX comes in 3 different tiers, and so there's RX Elements that comes with 6 different modules, RX Standard that comes with I think 14 modules, and then RX 10 Advanced that comes with every module they make. And so in this video, I'm going to be showing off the new modules in RX 10 Advanced. And for full disclosure, the nice people at Izotope sent me RX 10 Advanced for free so I could review it for this video, but they don't have any input in what I say, I don't get paid to make this video, and I don't have any affiliate links, so I won't get paid if you actually do buy the product. Also, just to note, I already own RX 9, so obviously I already think that the program is pretty good, but in this video, I'm going to try to figure out if upgrading RX 10 is worth it. All right, let's get started. So here is the standalone version of RX 10. I normally use RX within my DAW as plugins, but it's easier to show off the new modules within the standalone version, so that's what I'm going to do instead. And just something to note, I noticed that the standalone program isn't going to be included in the Elements tier this year, so if you like using the standalone program, you're going to have to buy the standard tier this year. So for this test, I picked 6 different dialogue clips that has 5 different characters with a variety of voice types, and I picked audio clips that had some background noise in them because I want to see how well RX 10 does when the audio clips aren't perfectly clean. And so the first new module in RX 10 is called Text Navigation. And so Text Navigation is an AI algorithm that can scan your audio clips for dialogue and then try to figure out what words are within the clips. Now, of course, there's a few caveats for this. First off, the audio clip needs to be at least 10 seconds long. Second, it only knows American English, so if you have different languages, it probably won't work. And it also has trouble understanding different accents. But with that, let's give it a try. And so to run text navigation, if you go down here to the bottom left, you can click on the new text navigation word lane icon, and RX will now start going through your audio clips and figuring out what the transcription is. And if you click on the Izotope logo, then this is kind of like a task manager where you can see it actually doing its work. And now it looks like it's done. And so now you can see on the top of the audio clip is the transcription of what words Izotope RX thinks are being said in this clip. So if I zoom in a little bit, let's see how well they did.
Listen, sir, I'm here to make sure everyone gets out of there safely. You feel me, compadre?
And so, all right, they got the first part right, but once he starts speaking Spanish at the end, then it doesn't really understand what he said. Let's see how it did on some other clips.
Murphy! I saw the whole thing. I'm so proud of you, baby. It's a boy!
So again, maybe it got 70%. Instead of nursing, this is Murphy. And then instead of it's a Y, it's a boy. So it did okay. So let's go on to the next clip.
It's been a very bad week.
Yeah, that's only about 50% there.
Yeah, I mashed it. I mashed it.
All right, so that one, it also had some issues. And so it seems like it's having issues with clips that have a lot of background noise. Let's see the next clip.
What are you doing?
Yep, again, this has a lot of hum and it doesn't understand. And let's just go to the last clip to see how that sounds.
And that's how a frightened little squirrel found a home in a bank here in our town. Back to you, Beck.
Maybe it got 70% of the words. And so overall, it looks like it's correct maybe 70% of the time, but then on the clips that have a lot of background noise, like these here in the middle, then that percentage goes down quite considerably. Now, another cool thing about using text navigation is now since Izotope kind of knows what words are in your audio clips, now you can search for those actual words. So over here on the left, you can open up a search feature. And so I'm gonna type the word squirrel because I know that's in the dialogue. And sure enough, when I click on it,
Squirrel.
Awesome. So it did find squirrel. So I could see that being helpful when you're doing some dialogue editing, if you wanted to copy a word from somewhere else in the film and then replace it on a section where it wasn't as clean. Another cool part about this is that Izotope also tries to figure out how many speakers there are in this audio clip. And so the cool thing about having the speakers broken out is that then if you wanted to apply a certain processing chain on one speaker, then you could easily do that by just selecting the speaker. And so you can see down here on the bottom that it's guessing that there's 6 different speakers in this audio clip. And so let's see what happens if I click speaker 1. It's interesting it's not copying the whole clip, it's only copying kind of where the dialogue is. Let's see speaker 2. Okay, same kind of thing. That seems like it's doing a little bit better job there. Speaker 3. So those are actually 2 different speakers. One's a guy and one's a girl.
It's been a very bad week.
I mashed it.
And so I wonder if it's getting confused because the background wind noise is similar, but the voices aren't the same. So that is incorrect. Those are 2 actual different people. And so moving on to speaker 4. So speaker 4 isn't even really a person. It looks like it's just kind of copying the end of this dialogue, so that would be incorrect. And then speaker 5.
What are you doing?
Is actually the same character as speaker 1.
Feel me, compadre?
But it didn't understand that. And then speaker 6
Found a home in a bank.
is a different person. So all in all, I think it did an okay job on figuring out the different speakers, but I think it's still having some issues with all this background noise, that it's not fully understanding the dialogue that are within these clips. And then one thing to note, this speaker feature is only available in the advanced version of RX 10. And so if you get the standard version, you will be able to search the text, but you can't actually search by different speakers. So that's the basics for text navigation. Now, like I said, I think text navigation had a lot of issues because this dialogue is really noisy. So I'm going to use the next updated feature in RX 10, the Repair Assistant, to see if that can help me out. And so here's Repair Assistant. This was in previous versions of RX, but they redid the module screen to make it a little bit easier to use. And so to use it, you just have to select which mode you want. You have voice, you have tonal instruments, you have percussion, non-tonal instruments, and then sound effects. All right, so let's see what it does on this first clip. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to be processing a voice. And so let's have it learn the settings for this clip. And just a note, for Repair Assistant to work properly, the audio clip needs to be at least 7 seconds long. All right, so it's decided that I need to de-ess it by 13%, de-reverb by 8%, de-click by 40%, and then use 44% of denoising. And so here's what it sounds like beforehand.
Listen, sir. I'm here to make sure everyone gets out of there safely. You feel me, compadre?
And now here's what the Repair Assistant thinks would be the optimal denoising pass.
Listen, sir. I'm here to make sure everyone gets out of there safely. You feel me, compadre?
Yeah, so I mean, that sounds pretty good. It denoised it. You can kind of hear a little pumping in the background noise as it transitions from the background noise to then the dialogue and then back again. But overall, I mean, it did a pretty good job. So I could see how this could be helpful if you're just starting out using RX and you don't really know how to use the different modules, then having this assistant would really help you get a good result on the first pass. But overall, this seems more of just a change in UX to me than actually adding kind of any new functionality. So before moving on to the next feature, I'm kind of curious to see if text navigation would do better if we actually denoise the audio clips first. So I'm going to select all the different audio clips, have them learn the noise profiles, and then denoise them, and then we'll run text navigation again. Great, so now we have all the 6 different clips in their most pristine, clean shape according to RX. So now let's go to text navigation and see how well it does. Okay, so it still seems like it has the transcription from before. So let's right click and have it rescan the transcription again. And so if we click on the Izotope logo, then we can see that it's redoing the transcription. All right, and then let's open up the text navigation panel. And interesting, Now Izotope thinks there's 7 different speakers instead of 6 different speakers. And again, there's really only 5 different speakers. But let's see how well it did. So if I remember right, let's zoom in. Before it says it's a Y, and it looks like it still says it's a Y. Okay, so that didn't change. Here it looks like it did change.
It's been a very bad week.
All right, so it looks like it got a few more words in this clip. Let's zoom into this clip.
Yeah, I mashed it. I mashed it.
It still seems to be having issues where there's a lot of like lower frequencies messing up the dialogue. And then on this clip, it also didn't do that well. All right, let's do one more thing to try to help it out. For these 2 clips, I know they have a lot of low frequencies. So let's go into the EQ. Let's turn on the high pass filter. And I'm gonna cut everything under around 80 hertz. Let's render that out. Okay, that cleaned it up. And now let's see if we rescan again, how well it does. All right, so it looks like it's got more words. Let's see.
Did you mash your heart?
Yeah, I mashed it. I mashed it.
What are you doing?
Okay, so it looks like by taking out the low frequencies, it was sort of able to figure out where the dialogue was better, and it actually removed a lot of those errant speakers that we had here. Now we only have 5 speakers instead of 7, but overall, it looks like the text navigation doesn't do that well unless the dialogue is really clean. So again, this would be really helpful if you're working on a podcast or something that was recorded well in a studio or ADR booth, but with dialogue that was recorded on set, it's not doing that well. All right, so for next up, I'm going to undo all of the cleaning that we did on the various clips. And the next module that they upgraded is the dehum module. So let's zoom into my clip that has a lot of electrical hum right here. And I'm gonna select it and open the dehum module. And so they said that they completely redid this module and added an adaptive mode to it. So let's click on the adaptive mode. And so here's how it sounds like before.
What are you doing?
All right, and let's render these settings, and let's see how well it does afterwards.
What are you doing?
And so it seems like it did a pretty good job. It looks like it got rid of most of the higher frequency humming, but it's having some issue with the lower frequency kind of thuds and bumps down here. And so let me undo that, and I'm gonna just use the learn feature, and we'll see if that helps it out instead. So to do that, I just selected a section that doesn't have any dialogue, and then we're gonna hit learn, and then this is the noise profile that I'm telling RX I wanna remove, and then if we select it all, try to remove that. And so let's see how that sounds.
What are you doing?
And so I actually think that the adaptive mode probably did better than the learn mode. And it's kind of odd what the module is doing because these low kind of thuds that are in the clip after the processing actually aren't there in the original clip. So for some reason, the dehum module is adding these low frequencies after doing the processing. So again, let's do my EQ trick to see if that helps out the module. So here's the EQ again. I'm gonna remove the low frequencies and let's put this back on adaptive mode and then see how it does.
What are you doing?
And bam, there you go. Now the dialogue is much cleaner. And I'm kind of curious still. Let's rescan the word lane again to see if it's going to actually understand these lines. And no, it looks like it still didn't understand the lines. I'm wondering maybe it's too low. And so let's see what happens if I raise up the gain 15 dB and let's rescan again. And it got some different words, but still it doesn't say what are you doing.
What are you doing?
So I don't know what it's doing. I'll admit the words are kind of slurred together, but still after cleaning up and processing this dialogue, you would hope that it would know what the actual words were. It's just still not getting it. All right, so that's how you use dehum. So the next feature that they added in RX 10 is that they upgraded the Spectral Recovery module. So let's open that up. And so the reason that you would use Spectral Recovery is that if you have a dialogue clip that's missing a lot of frequencies, Izotope can kind of guess and figure out what frequencies are missing and then try to re-add those frequencies. So let's try it here on one of my audio clips. So first off, I'm going to EQ and purposely remove a bunch of frequencies. So I'm gonna remove the low end and let's remove the high end too. And these are pretty significant cuts. I'm gonna remove everything under 200 and then everything above 6K. So let's render that out. All right, so let's see what this sounds like now that I removed a bunch of frequencies.
And that's how a frightened little squirrel found a home in a bank here in our town. Back to you, Beck.
Okay, not great. And now you can actually see that there is no information up here above like 10K, 12K. And so let's select the audio clip and see what Spectral Recovery can do. So first we're gonna click Learn, and it looks like Spectral Recovery has decided that we should recover audio underneath 120, which is about right, because remember we took out everything around 200, and then everything above maybe 5K, 6K, which is again correct. That's kind of what we removed. And so let's see what it does. All right. So first off, you can now see that Izotope filled in the areas that were missing above 10K. And you can also see it filled in underneath like 200 Hertz as well. So again, here's what it sounded like before.
And that's how a frightened little squirrel found a home in a bank here in our town. Back to you, Beck.
And now here's what Spectral Recovery sounds like.
And that's how a frightened little squirrel found a home in a bank here in our town. Back to you, Beck.
Okay, interesting. Of course it's not perfect. It still sounds kind of tinny to me, and the S's don't sound that great at all. I'm gonna go back to what I had before, and then over here, I'm gonna tell it to try to boost the bass a little bit more, and when it adds frequencies, add less high frequencies. So let's see how that sounds. All right, so here's what the new settings sound like.
And that's how a frightened little squirrel found a home in a bank here in our town. Back to you, Beck.
So yeah, I think overall, does it sound better than what we had? Yes. But does it still sound clean? No. All right, so I think that was an extreme test of Spectral Recovery. Hopefully you wouldn't have an audio clip that had that many frequencies removed, but it was interesting to see how it dealt with those missing frequencies and what it added to try to make it sound more pristine. Great. And so another feature that they've upgraded in RX10 is called selection feathering. And so for example, if I selected a part of an audio clip that I wanted to process, it would only do that processing within that selection. And that makes sense. But if you're editing audio, normally if you have these really quick changes in setting or in processing, then it's really jarring because audio is generally very smooth. So now with selection feathering, I can change how much of the audio I want to change outside of my selection by using the time and the frequency sliders, and then it will affect that audio in a gradual manner so that the processing isn't as apparent. So for example, if I wanted to raise the volume of this selection by 10 dB without any feathering, it would look like this. And then let me undo that. And now here's what it looks like when you do add selection feathering, that the gain was applied inside the selection, and then it also was affecting some of the audio outside the selection as well. And then just to wrap things up, there's a couple other new features that are in RX10. For example, they added a new FTUE system, or First Time User Experience Tour. So when you first open up the program, then Izotope will give you a tour on how to use the various modules. And to quickly talk about some tech specs, now with RX10, they now support M1 chips natively. And because of that, they're also deprecating the VST2 version of the plugins. And also just a note, there's a few modules like Ambience Match and Dialogue Isolate and De-Russell that only work in Pro Tools. And so if there's a specific module that you want to use, you should probably do some research on making sure that you can use it in the way that works for your workflow. So in terms of pricing, when the software first comes out, RX Elements is going to be $129 US. RX10 Standard is going to be $399, and then RX10 Advanced is going to be $1,199 US. But again, with the holidays coming up, I'm sure Izotope is going to have some sales, and so you might want to wait a few weeks to get the best price on these. And I know Izotope also has sales once the product has been out for a while, and so for example, RX9 at the time of this filming is currently on sale, and so the RX9 Element is only for $49, the RX Standard is for $299, and the RX9 Advance is actually $799. So what are my conclusions on RX10? Well, I think they have some nice upgraded features in RX10. I think the text transcription is pretty cool when it works, and I think the repair assistant will help new users quite a bit. But since I already own RX9, I'm not sure if RX10 has a bunch of new upgrades that would significantly help my workflow. And this is kind of a similar pattern that I've had with Izotope over the years. I had Izotope RX4, and then I upgraded to RX7, and then I upgraded to RX9. And so essentially, I've only really felt the need to upgrade every 2 years because they haven't changed enough modules or upgraded the algorithms enough to encourage me to buy the newest updates. Now, if you have RX7, then I think RX10 would make sense because there has been a lot of upgrades since those earlier versions. So this completes the short overview of Izotope RX10. I hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.